Um, As far as the second topic of concern, which is the meeting with the NPS, I'll say that we had a productive and a substantive meeting with the NPS and with the railroad on August 2nd. We had that here. Glad to say that it was attended by both the city, the mayor was attended part of that meeting. There were several other entities that were there, the county, the BLM, and some other people that were there in attendance. The board, the foundation board from the railroad was also there. We were able to come to agreement on developing supplemental information that would be necessary to supplement the study reports that we submitted with our draft license application. That includes a recreation study. The recreation study includes a survey and a survey form. We've been working with the National Park Service since the 2nd of August on the actual survey form and the content of that. We just received back this week comments back from the NPS on that survey form that would be used as a part of the supplemental recreational study. We also have submitted a request for information for the socioeconomic study that will be a supplement to the currently existing socioeconomic study that will specifically address the impacts of socioeconomic impacts to the railroad. We've received back some information back from the railroad on that, and we're in the midst of working out the details associated with that information. The visual and aesthetic study is primarily one that has to do with a photo simulation attempt to try and depict the features of a project against what we see as a project now, so that people can more visually identify what the features look like against that photo simulation picture. We're in the process of working out the details on that also, but we think we're moving forward with that so we can get the key tie-in is that the photo simulation work and the results of that work will be helpful in the survey with riders on the train so that they can see what the impacts would be before and after and be able to comment on that and provide feedback on that. So the intent here is to finalize the work that's necessary in order to supplement those studies, and we'll be able to do that we're doing it in a very iterative way with the National Park Service. The next topic I had was permanent access road. The permanent access road, we actually received the permanent access route from our consultant on July 5th. They are still in the process of throwing to us the shape files, the GIS files that we need in order to be able to put together the information to support the currently existing 299 application. And then the other topic that I had in here was the hydrogeologic testing for that application. A lot of people are questioning with the hydrogeologics and the recharge on the aquifer. We have discussed with the BLM what kind of a permit application we would be submitting for that, and have sent it on a 2920, which is a temporary permit with the BLM. I have a meeting with my consultants on Monday afternoon, and we're hoping to finalize the permit application for that by next week. We'll be able to submit that. The 2920 application will include only two HE, was called hydrogeologic boreholes for testing of the recharge rate, and then 3 monitoring wells. Those monitoring wells will be attached to instrumentation, which will allow us to be able to monitor the groundwater table and certain kinds of chemical analysis for, for example, connectivity and some other things that will be attached to that. The data loggers for those will be downloaded on a quarterly basis, so we'll be able to track that over the entire process, the license process time. So that's upcoming. The last item that I have on here is the FLA. We are in the process of incorporating comments that we've received from a variety of stakeholders into the final license application. So we follow up on that. We expect that we'll be able to have a final license application prepared in 3 to 6 months in that time frame, which means that the EIS process and the NEPA process that we talked about would be probably kicked off sometime in the spring or the summer of next year. Depends on what the purpose of it. And that is all I have to report on as far as updates. And thank you again
Yes, I'd like to ask more than one question. Number one question is, what is the total cost, estimated cost for this project that you're looking at?
So in the, there's, I'm going to qualify my answer to a small extent. If you go to the draft license application, it'll show exactly what the financial breakout is, and it shows a little bit north of $2.3 billion for the project to construct. What we haven't done, what we'll have to do as a part of the filing of the final license application is to take into account any inflationary factors that have come into play since we calculated that number at that time. So it will likely be a bit north of 2.3 billion.
Now, also, I do believe in prior meetings has been mentioned that you have a facility like this that you're planning to develop here elsewhere.
But we actually have about a dozen projects under various stages of development throughout the United States. The majority of those are in the western United States. We have another project that has already submitted a draft license application that's in Wyoming. So we have two projects that have filed draft
Do
licenses.
you have any project that is functioning?
The pump storage projects, we don't have a functioning pump storage project at this time. There hasn't been one permitted and operated since
At least 30 years.
at least 30 years. So anywhere in the United States, there has not been a permitted and constructed pump storage hydro project in the United States. There's been internationally been projects, but they're not in the United States.
Why is that? Do you know?
It's primarily because it's a very costly enterprise. It's a long view. You have to really be looking at this as a long-time return or possible return. A lot of company boards aren't really interested in doing things that take a long time to do and get returns on. Utilities have taken it on, but there has been a different attitude about pump storage and the need for grid stability in the last few years that has emerged, primarily because of renewable energy and the variable generation of renewable energy. So grid stability is something that is really, really important to the utilities right now, and it's part of the reason why you see grid instability, like brownouts that are occurring in large metro areas.
Any other questions? We appreciate your time.
No, I'm looking forward to the fact that they have a facility. I think it would behoove the county and city of Lee to attend somehow to one of those facilities if they were operational.
There are operational facilities. There just hasn't been any new facilities permitted and constructed in the last 30
But
years.
are there any operational facilities now?
I will send you a map that shows what those operational facilities are, and I'll send it to the clerk. They're all over the country.
There's 43.
There you go, there's 43.
Just none owned by our plus.
Just not owned by our plus entity, that's right.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. With that, we'll move on to, we're on item 4. Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, consideration of recommendation from City Hall Review Committee regarding design professional qualifications presented and possible selection from the following submitted proposals: Paul Cannon Architect LLC and Parallel Line Studios.
Mr. Mayor, they really both applications here, and they knowledgeable with the architecture and whatnot, have of course a study of mine. And I'm going to recommend that we,
Well, Kenneth, before you recommend, I've got a few things to talk about,
Okay.
but we'll get to that. There you go. So both, we did get these 2 applications. Both applications were complete. For the council's information, the way this process works in the state of Nevada is public boards need to make the selection based on qualifications first. And so how that works is we farmed out these applications or these statements of qualification to 5 people within the city. One was our engineer, D.J. Holmberg, our building inspector, Greg Peterson, Councilman Kurt Carson, myself, and and Clerk Jennifer Lee. Everybody reviews them and then scores them on a rubric we have here based on the requested information. They'll score them on a scale of 1 to 25 on each of the 4 items. And then we'll all come together, tally up the scores, and then have a discussion about it. The committee, in discussing this, felt that they were both very viable applicants. Of course, both are licensed architects, both have past experience in this kind of work. The scores broke out for, let's see here, parallel lines, and these scores, once you add everything up, was out of 500. So parallel lines came in at 380, and Paul Cabin came in at 451. Just due to the fact, I think as we discussed this, that Paul had a little bit more experience in this kind of construction and working for these kind of boards. And once again, the committee was very complimentary of both and would be fine no matter who the council decides to go with. But the recommendation from the committee was that the city go with Paul Cabin. But Councilman Flangus, you had some things to add on this?
Oh, yes, reviewing both of them, not, I was going to recommend the one you just mentioned.
Okay.
The simple reason is signing both applications at one time. The concept that we have in mind for City Hall. And the work that he has done within the state of Nevada, for the state, for different schools and whatnot, is right up the alley of what we need. Somebody that's familiar with an office building of a city or a state office and whatnot, and the needs of what is determined in there. So I feel after looking at both applications, I feel this firm is better qualified, and that would be my recommendation. I'd like to.
So the council, thank you, Councilman Flangus. The committee could have opted to interview each of these. They felt that the evidence was pretty clear, and really the applications were so complete. We felt we got the information that we needed from that. But we do have a representative from Parallel Lines here tonight if the council wanted to talk to one of the architects. Is there any questions or discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
were these the only 2 companies that submitted, or?
these were the only 2 companies that submitted. Yeah. And that was after advertising for 3 weeks, but we did reach out and call definitely these 2 and make sure that we tried to do it.
This time I'd like to move to approve Paul Cabin.
A motion from Councilman Carson, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Albert. There's a triple from Councilman Flangus. I was just noting that your recommendation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'd like to thank everybody for this session.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to item 5, Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, approval to refund business license fees up to the amount of $124.50 to the White River Boutique Company at the request of business owner Jen Rosevear due to closing of the business effective August 1st, 2022. This is not, correct me if I'm wrong, but not something that the city has in their policy. As such, the request has to come before the council.
Yeah, and I understand that completely. She would have got her application in November. It's got to be for the full year to start with, too. The timing thing, poor gal, she tried a business, and within a month she's out of business. Or renewed her thing. So I make a motion to refund her money.
Before you do that, I just wanted to ask a question. Her letter says probably what this says is closed, so which is it?
I believe
Yes.
it's closed.
It is closed,
Yeah.
okay.
August 1st.
So we have a motion from Councilman Albert, do I have a second? Second from Councilman Williams Harper. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried, so ordered. Item 6, Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Land Management, Ely District Office, and the City of Ely as a cooperating agency regarding the environmental impact statements for the KG Mining Bald Mountain Inc. Plan of Operation Amendment Juniper Project. I'll entertain a motion on this. Motion from Councilman Spear, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Albert, is there any further discussion on this item? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried, so ordered. Item 7, Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, annual performance evaluation of City Attorney Leo Cahoon, including but not limited to consideration of character, alleged misconduct, professional competence, or physical or mental health. Possible action includes but is not limited to termination, suspension, demotion, reduction in pay, reprimand, promotion, endorsement, engagement, retention, or no action. We're going to come up to.
I will, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't receive any notice. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I have a problem. I think we're very fortunate having you as the food for the city.
How do you feel your workload is?
I was going to kind of go over that.
Okay.
I'd like to just give you a brief summary of the past year since I've been here and sort of the responsibilities that I have.
Perfect.
So since the past year, I checked with the municipal court. I prosecuted over 250 criminal cases. This involved DUIs, domestic violence, theft, disturbing the peace, trespassing, resisting arrest. These are just to name a few, stalking, along with a variety of other traffic violations. This often will sometimes involve trial prep, and now the Supreme Court has ruled that domestic violence defendants are entitled to a jury trial. So that is something that I've been working with the court to begin implementing if the case arises. I'm typically in court Tuesday through Thursday all morning, sometimes Mondays, and a new law just recently passed requiring hearings within 48 hours of an arrest, which means that if someone's arrested on Friday, they have to have a hearing within 48 hours. So basically, I have to be called at any moment by the court to attend a hearing on weekends. So that's not something I contemplated when I was hired. And I've been working with the municipal court to figure out how the most efficient way to do that. And so we'll see how that goes once we begin hearing those cases. I do a great deal of code enforcement for the city. This makes the community cleaner and safer. And it usually requires that I send demand letters or have people appear for hearing full counsel. There's been a few instances where I've had to file criminal complaints or file for a warrant. There's an ever-growing list of needed amendments and additions to the code, and I've already drafted several ordinances that we codified. I work closely with all the other city departments and answer their legal questions. And that's one thing that takes a lot of my time is I receive numerous questions a day from all the departments that I can sometimes answer right away, and other times it can take several hours of legal research to get an answer back. I attend utility board meetings, tree board, city council meetings, of course, and I also share the responsibility with the DA's office to attend regional planning commission meetings. I sometimes take calls from the public that I have to respond to and I work with them to solve their problems. Of course, I represent the city in any kind of litigation capacity, most of them, and have spent numerous hours negotiating, researching, and working with other entities, drafted numerous contracts. And one thing I'd like to discuss is that the past year I have had an assistant to really manage mail or subpoenas, cases, discovery, delivery of documents. Based on my experience and speaking with other attorneys, this is quite unusual for an attorney to not have an assistant. And so for the past year up until about a month ago, I've had to do all that clerical work on my own. Which really just takes away from my my legal responsibilities to the city. It just takes a lot of time to do that. But my new assistant, she helps tremendously, mainly with my sanity. She's taken on all those responsibilities very well. But really the workload hasn't decreased at all. because, you know, my list continually piles up of my actual legal responsibilities. So this just allows me to address council concerns, respond to your requests quicker and more efficiently, and spend more time on the important legal issues that I'm responsible for. And then, yeah, with all these responsibilities being, you know, by myself essentially, and now with the assistant even, I routinely have to stay after hours, and then now with this new law passed, I might be having to work all weekends as well. Overall, the civil and criminal demands of this job, I think, are pretty unique and distinct. I think the only other comparable position in the county would be the DA, where I have to represent on civil issues as well as criminal. And the DA's office has a chief deputy, three other deputies beneath them, and then 3 staff assistants to assist in all their duties. But regardless of the workload, I'm really enjoying the job. I've really enjoyed working with you all, with the staff as well, and for the community as a whole. As I've mentioned before, we moved here 2 years ago, and we love you. We want to stay. We made this our home, and I really am grateful and blessed to have this position. And to the next point, I would like to request a raise at this time. While I am blessed to have the amount that I have now, I think the position really deserves better compensation. And that's for me or any of my successors that may come after me. I don't plan on leaving, but anyone that may come after me. So what I'm asking for today is $100,000. Perhaps council and mayor can have a discussion of that, and I can answer any questions.
So just in follow-up on Councilman Carson's question, the assistant is just allowed you to spend more of your working time on the legal issues rather than the office management.
Yeah, she's just a clerical assistant, so she's not a paralegal or a deputy attorney, right? So she's just sending mail for me. I have her deliver my subpoenas to the sheriff's office or deliver documents to the court. On occasion, I have her, you know, I'll have motions to continue or to dismiss that just need like the defendant name, case number, and some of those things change. She'll do all that for me. I review it, and then she delivers it to the court for to have it submitted. I also have her collecting discovery, sending that to whoever it needs to be sent to as well. So.
I have a question about the 48 hours. What happens if that's not possible? I know you have to get it so. I mean, what's the penalty, the liability of not being able to do that?
I think if I can't appear, it may be the case that the judge just released the defendant on their own recognizance. But if it's a serious case, like a domestic violence, I may want to be there to argue against that, against their release, and to set a bail at a higher amount so that person can't be released at that point.
So what if you're on vacation?
Well, there's been a pretty big pushback from the rural counties on this new law because we don't have the resources and the support to do that, right?
I mean, for example, like the Las Vegas Municipal Court is now 24/7, or it's a 7-day-a-week entity, right? And that's what they're having people do.
I think so, and I mean, I'm sure that the city attorney's office down in Vegas or the DA's office, they have multiple attorneys, and I'm sure they're taking turns, taking the weekends, you know, covering weekends. And so they're able to do that. I'm unfortunately not.
Councilman.
Wouldn't Judge Bishop be able to fill in? He's a judge, you know.
Oh, to prosecute?
Yeah, on that 40-hour thing.
That's an interesting question. I don't know that you'd be able to, and I don't know if you'd want to be honest.
In conversing with Judge Coster, he was appearing telephonically or something on some of these, wasn't he? Does he have?
Yeah, so the plan is to do them over Zoom or telephonically. I think they're trying to set it up for Zoom calls. So, I mean, I don't have to be at the court. I could be out of town and take the call.
Sure.
But I mean, on the occasion where I may be camping and there's no service,
Right.
I haven't figured out how to do that.
Okay.
All rural counties are struggling with this. I read
Yeah.
Eureka Lander link, and there's just no way to get that 48-hour deal is a crock.
Yeah.
We have a long weekend.
Thank you, state legislature.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Please.
I've done some research, just for history, so everybody's aware, we had Caroline, don't know her last name, we hired her, she lasted 8 months, we were paying her $80,000 a year, plus she got a $5,000 moving allowance, so she was gone in 8 months. Then we had Shane Manuel, he had a contract, $7,500 a month, and $90,000 a year, no benefits. And he came in August of 20, left in July 21st, and then Leo came in, he's at $80,000 in this year. Right now, he's asking for 20. Again, Councilman Carson mentioned about the budget. And that's, Leo went to the city treasurer and said, put 20,000 in the budget. So it's up to the council whether we're going to award that or not. I was upset, and I expressed my dissatisfaction with the HR treasurer that it was failed to be mentioned when we went to the budget hearing. It was an oversight. Everybody was 3%. She says, I did miss that. It was after the fact. So, with that being said, and following what Councilman Carson talks about staying within the budget, so there's a $20,000 increase requested by Leo. His legal assistant, which I'm glad she's working out, in the budget was for $8,000. She's hired now for $16,568. So there's an overrun on the budget again. That wasn't budgeted, Leo's was in the budget. So, and like mentioned earlier, one of the greatest things about working for the city is the benefits the city pays for, the PERS and your insurance. At a $90,000 wage, Leo's benefits the city pays for is $41,000. If he goes to the $100,000, that's $44,000 the city pays for his benefits. That's money in his pocket. He does not have to pay for retirement. The city's paying. As long as he stays on board for 5 years, and the longer he stays, the more money goes. That's per year. So when I look at this, trying to be somewhat reasonable for what's happened with the other, the treasurer, the city clerk, and the public works director, we started this snowball thing, well, it's getting bigger and bigger, So the average of those three individuals that were granted a raise, the city council did, with the exception of Craycraft, the city clerk granted a 10% raise. So that average out is $5,000 and some dollars, over here somewhere. So it's $5,000 for those three there. So I like to throw just a couple of thoughts, food for thoughts out there to Mr. Leo. I think 100,000 is too much myself. But if I was to say 90,000, and then you go back and look, the budget was for 20, and they for 28,000, they awarded Leo 10,000. The part-time lady cut away from that, so there's $1,400 left to keep within the budget. But if we're going to be consistent, we paid Jennifer, Jeanette, and Craycraft an average of $5,500. I kind of find the number here. So give him, my recommendation is 90, to treat everybody right, to be done to them, another 5,000. So 95,000. Is 5,000 short? Or whatever it is, 90,000, he wants 100,000. So that's one idea. And I know how this works. It would be, when I worked at the hospital, the doctors, you had a workload, you were required by your contract to do so many patients. If you exceeded your patient load, they give you a bonus, it was called a production bonus. Because you brought in more customers, more patients, you got a slice of the pie. So here he is looking at 250 cases a year. He's in court 2 days a week, and now he's going to take on the task of going after our utility billings. So that's going to take some time. Again, I think, I'm not a lawyer, but I think the case study with Kevin Briggs, it'll boom, boom, boom real fast. Amber Lee can process the paper fast, and it should go fast once the judge sees it's rolling. So this is just an idea. If he'd be considering, we went through the first thing, and my idea is 95,000 for his pay increase, up to 95,000. The second one is give him a percentage under a separate contract to when he pursues these cases of delinquencies, a percentage, for example, 10%. Let's just say, boom, he gets everybody cleared out, and right now, he would get an additional $39,000 based on a contract for 1 year, see how it works for a year. It's an incentive, the proof is in the pudding. Again, I don't know what his workload, he might only be able to get 20,000 a month, half a year. You know, so the 10%, that's $2,000, you know, so that's an extra, but it keeps on rolling. And the last one, which I've already got feedback on this here, is he can go contract, $150,000. He takes care of his own benefits, buys his own insurance. His wife works at the hospital, she's got benefits and insurance. I mean, we need to push this around a little bit. I know we don't, it's hard, we've had a contract, you know, Manueli was the contract person, it was hard to get hold of, we had Sears as the contract. There's times when you need him. So, but pay him with $100,000 with his benefits and everything, he's at $150,000, you know, $43,000 and so forth. Freelancer, go on your own, don't contract with the city. $150,000, wherever he wants. But he's not gonna get the benefits, the city's gonna save $43,000 and have to pay benefits, for example. So that's what my proposal is. I think he's young, and he's more experienced, and he's gonna get it. He's getting 250 cases a year, that's a lot of cases. And it sounds like he's gonna pick up. Now having Amber Lee in there is gonna take some of that all that time-consuming stuff, to jump in your car and drive all the way out to the courts takes a lot of time, so. Again, I don't know now, the proposal that we have talked earlier about going after the bad debt on landfill, if we're gonna be able to get anything done, and this guy's busy. So, paying him, not gonna make him have less hours. He's still gonna have to bring him in oil.
Yeah, and those are some good suggestions, but are there comments from Councilwoman?
Yes, and I want to say I agree with those things. Some of the things were on my mind also. But if I might, if it's okay, we talked about there being about $128,000 out there in liens and fees to be collected. Was it 200?
No, that's principal is 228, and the maximum is 388.
The maximum.
That's if he gets, if the judge awards the penalties.
So, Leo, these are cases that you're prosecuting anyway, and that you're going to do more. And actually, if we were to offer you a percentage of those, you would come out way ahead of even the $100,000 that you're asking for. So I guess I'm asking you, is that realistic that you?
Kind of feeds back into the workload question.
Right. I hadn't anticipated that. Obviously, short term, that sounds, there's an appetite for that, but I think long term, right, because I might be able to go through these cases, get them all prosecuted within a year, and then what am I back to, 80 or 90 or?
Well, Councilman Alwar's suggestion was 95 this year, plus the.
Plus that.
Plus a different agreement,
Yeah.
you know, the
Under a different
production bonus.
So it includes a raise, most of what you're asking for, plus that, in the interest of making.
Because we're interested in collecting
Yeah.
what we're owed, and the overage is just what it is. You'd be able to collect a percentage of that, if we still have a percentage of that. And so, I'm not asking for something right now, but if you got a decent amount of cases, that would be more than the $100,000 you're asking us for, easily.
And what would the percentage be?
10%.
We just grabbed 10%.
Suggestion.
Well, I've been following the attorneys at the city since we had Gary Fairman, and he was a great attorney when I went to council the last go around. I think that, you know, it's really hard to retain an attorney. If you went to the last 10 years, they had some serious trouble, you know. We had Charlene, I liked her real well, but she lasted, like you said, 8 months, Charlene back it up, and like her name. Whatever, it doesn't matter, but Amy, what I'm hearing is that you're marked for 95,000. Put up a second agreement for the liens you collect, would that be amenable to you?
I think so. It is attractive. I'm wondering though, once those liens are collected and that contract is done, could there be another discussion, right?
There's always going to be a discussion every year.
You have an
For a
annual
year, do it for a
Right.
year, and let's see where we land, and let's see where we are, because you're really gonna need time to collect that data and see how many, because we could come back and say, I really tried to do this, and this was a bust, I collected some, but not enough, or, you know what, you might say, this really works, and you're really benefiting even more.
Because my vision would be, if we win with this, you get the contract, you prepare, we get another attorney firm to look at it and say, it makes sense. Again, I'm patterning this off when I worked at the hospital, you know, and it was real, those doctors busted their butt, you know. But, so anyway, I have a vision in the contract, is at the end of the year, we revisit the pay rate again. Because if you make $38,000 extra on top of what I hear, the city's gonna make $300,000. So that's the plus to the fact that, hey, he goes out there and look back and say, now we've been at the city 2 years, proof is in the pudding. He worked hard, he went through all these, plus the 250 cases, and we might get to the point that,
The council is also concerned that you may not have time to go after that many of these cases, and that's what we would come back and talk about, I think.
Right.
yeah, and there's always that chance.
Yeah.
There's always a chance, once it goes public, people are gonna come in flipping out Franklins all over the place, so they don't go in front of the court. So at that time then, that's why I suggest a 6-month review at it, look at it again, you know, I mean, in that contract.
Yeah, I think six months would be better,
Yeah.
instead of waiting for
For a year.
a whole year. Because I don't think anybody here has said we don't want to keep you. You're doing a great job, and you're just learning more and more and more. I'm very proud that you're here. But that is an opportunity, and we
I like that.
it benefits us both.
Right.
And like I said, you know, you can try it and see for a little bit, and if not, you know, we come back. But we at least have done the 95, and you have an opportunity to take that as far as you.
Yeah, I like it, yeah. So what would happen tonight, and then approval of the 95, and then we'll work on a contract for the liens?
I think probably what would be best to do tonight